All right, let's get to it. I'm gonna be making video 3.1 for the class. I'm gonna do it entirely in Blender, which is gonna be fun. I have the file from when I was working on it before, but I gotta change the images because there's nothing to do with zombies. But I think by showing you that you can do it in Blender, by doing it all in Blender, then it might give confidence to everybody that you don't have to spend any money on a video editing program and you can still do a really good job of editing. So that's pretty exciting. And don't despair. Blender is a very powerful tool that will save you time and save you money and save you anxiety. It's just at the beginning there seems to be a learning curve. And I think that you should grow with Blender, make it part of what you use for almost every artistic and creative work that you do, from making storyboards and comic books to making animations to making videos and making games, even making posters and making presentations. There's so much you can do with this very flexible program. That is Blender. And I'll be doing 3.1. Then I hope that you will all join me in trying to make at least one video in Blender. It will be a portfolio and your skill set, and then it's much easier for us to share and trade things for the class. So let's I'll deal with changing the zombie background later. For now, let's just go through and start assembling the images that we need in that deep dive. So, because none of these images are really appropriate. But let's see if you can even go backwards. Sometimes it's fun to just pick random places. The other thing that you are encouraged to do is to get the script going so you can see what's coming up. So you're going to go through into Canvas, and it's not going to work for some reason. Yay, great. Ain't that just perfect? So there we go. And come into Canvas. And go for Envisioning Sustainability. And we're now in this new module here of Thinking Out Louder, Unit 3. And 3.1 is where I am, moving pictures. And then the transcript of the lecture is here to download. And you'll see that it ends with Game On. If I go back to, up to here, go back to Blender, then the last thing that said is, of course, it's not playing because I've set my playback very narrowly, as you can see if you look at the black bars that show the rendering area. I really want it to start now at 0 and end at wherever the end is, and the end is over here at frame 28,315. So I'm going to copy that and paste that in here. That's the number of frames that are in there, and it's a 15-minute in. But now that black bar has come to the end. Actually, I should make it a little bit longer. There we go.
Play a little more. Game on.
All right, so game on. Maybe a background that says game on in there. But you can go through here and start illustrating. So, you know, this is how I do it. It's a very rough, quick process, and it still takes a long time. I would type in game on and go for images and find the best game on that I can for this. I like this one, actually. It sort of shows a sort of futuristic thing. So yeah, why not? Why not take that? And I've got to put it in a folder that will help me. And I think most of the folder for most of these images was in Oh. Vision Sustainability Lecture 3. Ah, that's an older one. Hold on. So I'm going to put it in the folder where the original lecture stuff is, because there's the lecture for it there. So I'll put that in. I'm going to change the name of this to Game On. And in Blender here, it should show up. There it is, Game On. Now, unlike the bins in Camtasia or in Adobe Premiere, you're not going to get an actual bin here. You're looking inside a folder, but that's all right. And you can see if you do the thumbnails tab, and you can see what you're working on, and then drag it in. But we're dragging it underneath, right? And it came in above, so you'll have to hit G for grab and then grab it down there, and then you'll have to zoom in by keep pulling this. There's probably a quicker way to do it. This is a pain to zoom in, but that's what I've got. All right. So the reason that we're getting a good key in the green screen is because I set up for the whole thing a meta strip, which if I hit tab for edit, you'll see the meta strip is the lecture itself. And then I did a key master, and the key master has a modifier on it. I added strip modifiers. I added a hue modifier, and then I went into the value and picked the green that I wanted to come out. I did a saturation and brought the saturation all the way to the bottom, and I didn't mess with the hue, but the saturation, I brought it all the way down, and the green value is what I'm taking out. Then I put in a curves modifier, and in my curves modifier, I clicked on C, which is for contrast, and I messed with the contrast to try to remove as much of the key as possible. And that was that modifier. And then I went in to here and I made it an alpha under over here. And if it wasn't alpha under, if it was say alpha over, then boom, that wouldn't work. So I went to alpha under. And then I made another strip on top, which was a transform strip. And I made it into an alpha over. Because if I made it into alpha under, then I would disappear. So the alpha over was this one. And here in my modifiers, I made the strip modifier was called a mask. And I made that strip the key master, which was underneath. That's what you do for green screen. And that's in the last video I posted. So I have the key in here. And that's working just fine. But I want to, at this point, move the character. So can I do that when he says game on?
A little more. Game on?
So if I want to move him, then I need to cut this with K, the knife. And you can see that it's lost this part here, that meta strip. So I really need to replicate what we had here and here. One way to do that you'd think would be, could you just pull it, but you can't. So it looks like what I'm going to have to do is set it up again, and so I should have chunks of it. So I'm going to come here and click on this, and I'm going to add it won't let me. Interesting. An effect strip. It did work. I had to click off it. So add Gaussian blur, and then that's going to be called, this Gaussian blur one strip is now going to be called key master end. I'll just make a distinction for it. And I'd want to select all the values for the modifiers that were in here. So when I'm here, I have to add a strip modifier, and I'm going to do hue correct. And so how do I get these values there? Well, you can see here, if I copy this and then go into here and paste it, and then I come back in here and grab the Y, and then go to here and paste the Y. The rest of the values have to be brought down to 0. So this is how you set up your key, and you can see what's happening as I do it. Right, I've made myself into black and white. The other thing that this one has is this one has then a curves. So I have to add the strip modifier curves and then come here, and I've got to flip them around. So that one goes to there, and this one goes to there. All right, so we're getting there. However, I've got to also I didn't do the value. That's the saturation. So that was what was wrong here. The saturation's got to be dropped to 0 because we don't want any color in there. Now it's the value that we do that X and Y thing. So value, copy, paste into that value there. And then copy the Y value, which is just 1, so that should be pretty easy. The Y value is 1, all right? And then that has to happen for all the points, you see. So here, there's a single point, and then the others, you could actually capture those other values for each of the points if you like. I'm just going to eyeball this by bringing this down and bringing this down and bringing this down and bringing this down and this and this. It's a bit of a pain setting it up the first time. And then I'm going to create a couple more points to try to get as clean a key as possible out of the green. And I'm not going to be so anal about it because it should look okay for our purposes. So there's that, and then sort of move these to try to get out the artifacts. That's better. Yeah, so I've got a decent mask there. And then for this one, I have to add a transform. So I go back to the meta strip and I go add effect strip transform. And then with this one, I go to my modifiers and I add a modifier, which is mask. And that's why I named this keymaster end, because I have to pick it. There it is, keymaster end. And then it kind of works over there. And then you're going to tell this one to be the alpha over. Oops, not alpha under, alpha over. And then this one to be alpha under. And you've got your key there. But now what I want to do is see if I can move this position of this character. Yeah, and you have to make it work, you got to set it and then jog it. So I want it to be up and Y. Now one of the problems with this is you can't just grab it from here. It'd be really nice if you can. So you're going to have to keep jogging it like that. And see what it does. Still, wouldn't it be cool if you had the ability to select it in the preview and move it around? It's one thing the developers should put into this at some point. You can also use the arrow keys on your computer to just jump back and forth. But there it is. Let's move them a little bit back. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. And so then you have...
Right. If only you think in
Now for some reason... well, we didn't put anything in the background there. Okay. Game on. And I don't know why it goes out there. Maybe there is no... It's only the beginning of the meta strip. That must be because at that point the entire thing ends. So I'm going to get tab here. And then go back. Interesting. That seems to be where the end of the clip was. So that's where this thing entirely ends. That's that. And then it goes to black. So here, so what you can do to edit that is you can go to your meta strip and come down to time, and then the strip offset, you can then make the duration shorter. And then he will say,
game on.
And maybe there's a little bit of room in here to have him fade out. So we'll make it a little bit longer. Oops. See to there. Right. And during this time, we are going to add a fade out. Does that even work? Maybe not. Let's see. Add an effect strip. No. Adjustment layer. No. Oh, it did work. It just took its sweet time to do it. But it doesn't look so good, does it? So let's delete that and see if there's, if we do an effect strip, a fade adjustment layer. Well, we don't really have much of an option. Fade out. So what I've done is I've added a fade on these as well. Let's see what that looks like. Well, it's not ideal. There's a keyframe there where the alpha over goes down. And there's a keyframe there. Just the only thing I don't like is why the green appears here, 0.741. It's the same fade. And is it the same time as channel 5? channel 5 and channel 6. Let's see if I move that to a different channel. No, what's wrong with that? Channel, that's the channels there. Keymaster, I see. You can move the channels there. This is channel 5. All right. This is channel 6. This one is, of course, a different channel, but channel 4. Yeah, I just don't know why that that fade is looking so funny. The opacity. It's 0.5 there, it's 0.5. So they all have the same fades. There's some artifact. Well, good enough for government work for now. Alright, so now to do the rest of it.
Which are worth pursuing because they just might, if only you think and play a little more. Game on?
Okay. This, of course, needs to be brought there. You can get great specificity. And then zoom in here and bring this back to snap to there. Let's see. No. Okay. Good enough. Now, in order to create transitions that are fades, what I do is I bring in, I click on one bar and I click on the other, and I go to add transition cross, and then I have to do it for my keymasters as well. And so I add that cross transition, and then I click on my master and I drag back to get a crossfade. Except it looks horrible. Alright, that's not good. What happens here? Oops, nope, didn't want to do that. It's not going to work because I have a transition now. Get rid of that transition. Let me bring this back and see. Whoa. No, that clearly isn't going to work. And we'll have to close this up like this. And it'll have to be a jump. But between this and this one, I can certainly create a transition. Shift click here, add the transition, the cross transition, and then make my transition as long as I want to. It's just that that transition between me in one position and me in the other doesn't work very well. Now, it may be that we could slowly move this character up by setting keyframes in the position. So if I did an offset and I click on it, sorry, not click on it like that, hold my mouse over it and hit I for keyframe, and then hit I for keyframe and Y, and then find out where I am, 85 and 243, move it over to here, and on the last frame of this, before we get to there, go in here and set this to 85. And keyframe that. And then what was the other one? The other one was 243. So 243. And then hit I to keyframe that. Now he starts to move in that period of time. over the transition.
Game on, it'll be a little more. Game on.
It's not the best thing in the world, but it looks like his knees have been cut off. So it's just so bizarre that I think I'm not going to abandon it. It's not worth doing. To find the next keyframe, you click on this and this. No. You go to keyframe like this. No, we're not in keyframe editor right now. Keying. Because if you go like this, no more keyframes to jump to in this direction, no more keyframes to jump to in this direction. Why? I guess I need to find where it was. That's a keyframe there, but it's not going to let me jump to a keyframe. I guess it does. Okay. So this is going to go back to 0, and this is going to go back to 0. And then I'm going to keyframe it and keyframe it. And so it's just going to be a jump.
A little more. Game on.
Not too bad, though. Right, I took a pause and I figured out a technique here for copying the transforms and the key masters. So what you would do is you come over here to this new area, pick this meta strip, and you have to add the same strips, the Gaussian there, and pick the meta strip and add the transform here. And then what you do is you click on the Gaussian and then click on the key master. So both are selected, but there's a white rectangle around the one that you want to copy values from. And you can then go to your modifiers, and you see it says copy to selected strips. And so hit replace and do the same thing with this and copy to selected strips and replace. And then when you go there, you got something going on, but it isn't perfect. So you still have to go and go to the strip. And again, you would take the, you've got to make it sure that this is, well, it is alpha over, so that's weird. And this one here needs to be alpha under. And it supposedly did copy some of this. So sometimes you have to make a, oh yes, I know. You've got to set what the mask is, and the mask now is this. So rename this mask. This is Gaussian blur. Change it to keymaster future. Just give it a name so that you can then go to this and tell it that you want to, that you are setting your mask to that key. There it goes. And that should have then shown through. Let's see what happens here. Because this one here is now correct. You've got the keying. It may not have done alpha over. No, it did replace. So this has got to be alpha over. There we go. And then this one's alpha under. So it's not such a big pain. So I'm going to put another one in and do this cutting thing.
Party, and your worried parents came over to ask, are you sure you know the difference between the from the real world with the same clarity you had as a child when you sat down to an imaginary tea party?
So let's do it from there. Sat down to an imaginary tea party, and I got this already. But this one here is cute. So let's get that picture if I can. Let's call it Tea Party 2. And go back here and refresh. And there it is. And drag it in. And it comes in above, so you have to use the G key to get it down there and there, and it works. But I don't like this guy blocking her. So I'm going to cut. I'm going to come to sat down, and I'm going to use that audio as my reference. Click here, and I'm going to knife this, and those things disappear. So I'm going to make this longer to there. And I'm going to do that same thing. I have to add a Gaussian. And I need to add a transform. And now I'm going to select the modifiers from here by copy the selected strips. And I'm going to do the same thing. Click here and copy to selected strips. I have to then do the alpha over. That is alpha over. This one needs to be made into alpha under. And then I have to tell this one to, oh, it didn't do it. Alpha over. There we go. And this one is going to be alpha under. And I have to tell the mask here that it's going to be using this one, which I have to rename. Otherwise, it's just they all say Gaussian blur. So this is going to be called Key Master First T. Just give it a name. And then take this and tell it that the modifier is going to be now first T. There we go. And I want to move this character, so I go to the meta strip, go to the strip itself, and move the position, and maybe make it about 500 in X. Let's see. Didn't do anything. Because there's keyframes, clear keyframes. Sometimes there's keyframes and you don't want keyframes for this. All right, let's try this. And go 500. And there he is. He's sort of centered. And let me move him down a bit. So move him down to, let's try 250. Oops, that's too high. It's actually negative. I want to go. And let's move him down a little more. Maybe negative 250 or negative 200. Let's try that. There. All right. Move him back a little bit in X. Maybe a little bit more. All right. Better.
You had as a child when you sat down to an imaginary tea party and your worried parents came over to ask, are you sure you know the difference between the hot water and the real teapot on the kitchen table that can burn you in real life and the invisible hot water that you are so meticulously pouring all over the heads?
But I do want these to do a transition, so I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to add a cross.
Real life and the invisible hot water, the invisible.
And of course, you have to then move these back a little bit to see the effect.
Real life and the invisible hot water that you are meticulously.
Okay. So that's how we work this through. And of course, you can find video to put in.
Later, Disney was hired by the government to promote things like nuclear power.
So let's take that there, and we can add a marker, and that's there for the frame, so I can always find it again. And this is about Disney using making a movie called Our Friend the Atom. So I go to YouTube to that, and I pick the URL and I copy it, and then I go to a program called 4K Downloader, and I paste the link there. And then I can do normal quality because I'm not doing anything high quality. And that's going to download. And once it's downloaded, I will show in folder. And I'm going to cut this and bring it into my folder here. I also have Our Friend the Atom book cover. And then go back to Blender, and refresh, and there it comes in there. And I can put in, of course, the movie strip, but I don't want all that movie strip. What do I want? I want the section, so I'm going to try to make it shorter and shorter. So let me shorten things up like this. That's not what I wanted. I want the part where it shows the album. There it is. That's the part I want. All right. So I want it to there, and I want it to go to the section. Maybe to that, and then hit G and move it. Oops, that didn't work. Click off of it. Now hit G and move it around. And that part as the audio. Oh, shoot. Shoot. All right, what do you do there? Got to find the audio that corresponded to it. So actually I'm going to delete that and try this again. Bring the film in and put it on a, ooh, yeah. It's causing a problem because of the way it's coming in. So I want to make sure these stay connected. So I'm going to move this up and make sure it's at 515. All right, now I'm going to select both of these and bring it down. I'm going to find the part that I want. There. And will it let me? Yeah. Let me collapse that. Whoa. So let's see. Use the arrow key and bring it to there. And bring this back. Ooh, gotta get both of them now. Oh, it's not letting me do that. Why? Well, I'll just go up to there and then bring this back independently.
Is radically influenced by the same way of the tools of atomic things.
Tools of atomic what?
Are indices of the thyroid.
So let me take this, and now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to bring both of those down. Oopsie. Oh no, it's not letting me do it. What do I do here? Oh goodness gracious. It's not letting me move anything, is it? Well, let's see. If I bring it here, it really screwed up. So how do I get it down? Okay, bring this down. And bring it over. And bring this. It really doesn't want to bring it down, does it? Gee, come on. There we go. All right. So.
Later, Disney was hired by the government to promote things like nuclear power with the same techniques.
All right, so I want to cut all of this here with the knife. And I'm going to then cut this as well. Take this and this, and I've got to move all of it over. So I'm going to grab this and move it.
Things like nuclear power, the same technique. So the atom creates more food, however.
All right, so that's what I want to move in there. The shift click is not working for some reason. So I'll just have to make it work by hand.
Nuclear power, the same technique.
All right, disappeared. Why? I must have hit something by mistake. It's not H, it's not Shift, not Control. Well, that upsets me. I'm not sure why. So I'm going to have to erase it and try it again. Take our friend the mighty atom, bring it in. That's what I want there. Take this and bring it back to the same 5496. I want this underneath, so I've got to bring it down to there. And then, of course, I can't see it. So how do you make it so you don't see something? You can movie strip, insert gaps, lock mute, mute strip. Ah, that's for that one. That's H. And then to unmute the strip is Alt H. So maybe that's what I had done. So let's see if I mute this. I'm going to mute this and mute this strip. Do a five thing. Oh, let's see, maybe mute strip. Yes, and then mute this strip. I have to click on it, select it, and then mute it. Mute strip. Okay. But now this doesn't show up, so this needs to be unmuted. There we go. Come to there and bring it to there. Same thing here, bring the audio to there. Now select both of these, and oops, I guess the audio is not going to come with. Then I'll move the video there. And then I'll move the audio there. Ooh, the audio just really, there we go.
More food.
Yeah, so I've got to come back. And move that. Oops, that's H. That's what I hit wrong. I hit the Alt H, all right. And then place that there, and place that there.
Things like nuclear power, the same technique. So the atom creates more food.
So we're just a little bit off here. So then here, I'm going to
things like nuclear power, the same technique. So the atom creates more food for ever-growing population.
And I want to insert here this picture here of the atom, which I can put in right on top, but it comes in way too big, and I want it to be over the other. So what I should do, and I'm actually lift it up into there, is I've got to crop it, I guess. Making the size, it's not actually crop, it's... Isn't that interesting? It's very hard to make the size change with this, and it shouldn't be. It should be easy, because cropping's such a mess. And when you shift on it, I'll never really understand how this silly cropping thing works. So since cropping doesn't appear to do anything for it, then what we have to do with this is we've got to use a different transform by making a transform modifier for this. So that's one of Blender's weaknesses. Let me hit the period key to get back where I am. Is this transform ain't much good. So you've got to go in here and add to it a transform. And then here you can change the scale. Go to uniform scale and there you go. And then you can change the scale of it. But then you've got to turn your blend to alpha over. And then you can move it around. And again, you can't click on it like in other programs and move it. You've got to do your transform and do your scale. And then you got to move it by moving it in the offset. Okay. So what I think I wanted to do with this is I want to put our friend the atom, if I can, and really it would be cool to make this bigger, so change the duration and put this here so it covers up the, oh shoot, I guess I can't get too close to that. All right. But I also want to take that same picture, this one, and duplicate it with Shift D and move it down to here. And if I can grab that and move it, keep clicking off of it, and it doesn't quite, if it doesn't fit, it bounces a lot. So you got to make it small enough that you can fit it and then really zoom in on it. So you can zoom, zoom, zoom and hit the period key, and that'll help you there. Oh, darn it. Always seems to happen that way.
Later, Disney was hired by the government to make things like nuclear power with this.
Okay. And then keep moving it until you get to that point. Oops, see, it did it again. It's very hard. That's why they have this thing called close gap. Remove gaps. But you have to get right in on it and then try to do remove gaps. And even that's not working. Why is that? Remove gaps. Nope, it's not going to do it. Oh, got it now. I closed it. But the same techniques, this has got to be brought over to here, and this has got to be brought over to here. So the atom creates. And really, it would be nice if I could, oh, gosh, moving stuff is so difficult. If I could move that down. But there's another way to move it down, by the way. That's so because there's no channel there. That's why there's no place to move it. So you can't really set up things. So you could kind of yeah, we would have to move everything up a channel if that's the case. That is to say that I should have left more, but you know, I can put the audio up on top. That's okay. I can move this up there. It's not going to hurt anything to have the audio up on top. There we go.
The same technique. So the anti-creep.
And then this picture can also go, it's going to go up on top of the video, so I can bring the video down. And then bring this down. And zoom in on it. But this one here was supposed to be alpha over. Yeah, it's supposed to be alpha over. And this is supposed to be alpha over, so why isn't it working? Oh, because it's the audio that went up there. This is the audio. So the audio should be up here. A little bit of a pain. It looks like we keep losing stuff. So that's the audio, but I want to have the... This is the one that has to be above, and if it gets stuck, it won't work. So I'm going to bring this up to here. And this has to be down here. So, what a pain in the butt. There we go. There.
So the enter creates more.
And I wanted the techniques thing to, I need that audio to go a little bit longer.
The same technique. So the enter creates more food. Things like nuclear power, the same technique. So the enter creates more food. However,
although I did like it if it was, you hear a little bit of the
so the enter creates.
Yeah, that.
So the enter creates more food for our ever-growing population. And these same rays are the tools of atomic medicine.
And by then, I want the thing to go out, the picture.
Of atomic medicine.
Because it's blocking.
Same rays.
So here, I'll select this, and I will, I'll click on the opacity and hit I to set a keyframe. And then when I get down to the end of this, I'll go to the last frame, and I'll click on this and make it 0 and hit a keyframe. Oops. Should be 0. And then click I to make a keyframe. And then
in diseases of the thyroid gland, radioactive iodine performs an amazing job.
And then it should be zoomed out long before that. So actually it's by here that we want it to be 0. And then hit I for the keyframe. And nothing's happening. Why is that? Because the transform Transform may not let it. Is that the problem? What about the transform? Is there a... Oh, yes, there's an opacity with the transform with the alpha over. All right, once again, hard to know where to start doing that. So here, using the transform, let me click on this, hit I, make it a keyframe. And by the time this comes up like that, it should be out. So I click on 0, and then yes, and then hit I. And now, yes, it fades out.
Are the tools of atomic medicine. Indices of the thyroid gland and radioactive iodine. Indices.
That's where we want it to end. So the audio ends there. The transform will go with this to there. And there we go. And then this part of the video down to 383 as well. And that's where we should be able to remove gaps, and that comes in for the next strip. Now these were hidden, so now I'm going to hit Alt-H, and I click on it to bring that audio back and bring this audio back. And there we go.
We all know Madison Avenue.
But now we have to get our Gaussian back for this. I got to get our key back. So once again, we're on the meta strip. We add a Gaussian. We rename the Gaussian key master. I'm going to call it Disney. And then we're going to add a transform. I don't know why it keeps bouncing up there. What's the deal here? Let it be what it is. But this one here is going to, we've got to copy the modifiers from here, there, copy to selected strips, replace. No, it's the other way around. Or is it? Yes, it's the other way around. Doesn't seem to have affected it though. So we want to go here, here, and then copy to selected strips, and then go here, here, and then copy to selected strips. And then supposedly, yes, it did copy that over, but I now need to tell the keymaster no longer is keymaster, it is keymaster Disney, and so I'm okay. All right. Now, I've got to find images for this.
Tools of atomic medicine. We all know Madison.
Okay.
Madison Avenue used moving pictures and jingles to create consumer culture of shoppers who have to see the latest cereal.
Okay. Now for this section, I want to put a motion background behind me. So what I'm going to do is go to the web, and I go to Videvo, and I'm doing a free download of a couple different things. So let's see if this one is also free. No, that's expensive, so forget that one. But you can go to Videvo and you can find free images like this by doing all categories only free clips in Videvo, and that's a cool one. I want to use that one as well. So I'm going to download this. No thanks, I'll do that later. And show in folder, and then cut it and bring it into my folder here. All right, and then go back into Blender and refresh the folder. And there's one of the backgrounds that I brought in, the movie strips. So let me bring that in there. And that's kind of cool. So let's do that.
Empowered and times disempowered to serve or reject the agendas of power holders.
So let me have that as a background, and then I have some imagery I brought in about empowering. And that should show up. Where did it go? There. And what we were showing earlier is that one of the pains with Blender is that you need to have a transform on it. So you have to go into this and you'll want to, it doesn't show it when you do it like this. You'll have to go to add and then go to effect strip and put in transform, and then you can do the transform. Now let me see if I copy from this and do a copy to selected strips, then no, it didn't do it. It didn't do it, and so I will have to change the scale by clicking on uniform scale and then make it smaller, and I have to make sure that I'm using a alpha over instead of a replace. And then bring these over there. Let me move that over to there. And I got to move the position, and so the position, again, you've got to be in the transform, and then you've got to do offset, and then you have to move it as you like. And maybe I need to make it bigger, so and it has a lag, so that one doesn't happen in real time, so it's a bit of a pain. A bit of a pain. You have to keep moving through. Yeah. So it's still not in the right position for me.
It's empowered, and at times disempowered to serve or reject the agenda.
Okay, and I've done a move that. That is. So I actually want to move this over here, and here, and there. This is a case where it would be nice to have a dissolve between these two background images. And if I'm going to do a dissolve, then I've got to move this. It's such a pain sometimes. You've got to move it without moving it. Move it down. There we go. Try to get it to back up against this. And then select this video clip and this video clip, and then add a transition across, and then you've got to change your cross like that.
Times empowered, times disempowered to serve or reject the agendas of power holders, and students learn how you too can harness that power or fight against its effects. But most importantly,
so we don't need that to go beyond that. And then he says, but most importantly,
to historical context, we want to empower you to harness these techniques to spread your message.
So for that, we can bring in a different background, which is this one here, and drop that movie strip on. That's kind of cool. And then in the foreground, I'm going to bring in this media literacy piece here. Again, just click off it so you can move it. And And then you've got to add the same transform to it so that you can scale it smaller. And you have to make it be alpha over. And now here I'm going to transform it not at a uniform scale. I really would like the x to be shorter and then the y a little bit taller. And then I'm going to move it move it over there. And I'm also going to have it come in, I'm going to start it out transparent and then bring it in. So I'll bring this down to 0 at the beginning of it. All right, where did it go? There's the strip. All right, this is transform 10, and I'm going to have it be a 0 when I start. So I'm going to hit I for keyframe, and then have it come in about here and bring it up to full opacity. At this and hit I have my mouse over it so that it stays there. Let's see how far we want this to go.
But most importantly, through historical context.
Well, that's fine. I also want this one here to fade out. See what that does.
Yes, it's a fact. But most
doesn't really do anything, so let's see if I can add a fade out to this one. Yeah, that worked. Okay, so we fade that out.
Yes, it's a fact. But most importantly, through historical context, we want to empower you to harness these techniques to spread your message, hopefully of substance sustainability, to an ever wider public.
And we can end it on that gap in the audio and bring this out a little longer. Although that clip ends there, so I'd have to then take that clip and place it in a second time and then just shorten it to where I want to end, which is here.
Hopefully of substance sustainability to an ever wider public. Our first reading touches on a point I made off and before to re-emphasize emphatically. We need to consider gender. Race too, or rather ethnicity.
So now I refer to here our reading.
Or want to re-emphasize emphatically. We need to consider gender. Race too, touches on a point I made off and before to re-emphasize emphatically. To an ever wider public. Our first reading touches on a point.
So our first reading. So we've got to look at our first reading. And our first reading, when we look at the content here, is called "Of Posthuman Born, Gender Utopia and the Posthuman in Films and TV." I provided a link here to the full PDF so that you can access it. To get a picture of it, I just typed it into Google, and I do see here there is the first page. So I can take that and save that image and say "of posthuman born" and put that image in. And the other thing I'd probably want to do is philosophical posthumanism. Let's see if I like this one. In the Palgrave Handbook of Posthumanism in Film and Television, that's actually pretty good for what we want to use, although the image doesn't come in right. Otherwise, posthuman studies is there, and wouldn't be bad to have that image as well. We'll call it posthuman. And then come into here and refresh, and our post-human is 1, so that can go above. So we can put the book there, and we'll have to, once again, it's a pain, I know, but you've got to take it and you've got to create a transform on top of it. So go to a transform and then go to uniform scale and then scale it. Although it should not be uniform scale, should it? Scale it down. And we'll have to move it over. But we've also got to make it into an alpha over. And we don't have a background yet for this. The book cover is here, so that can go up on the same thing above it, but it's going to need its own transform. And now again, uniform scale, scale it down, make sure you put the alpha over, and this would have to be changed in position and bring it down. So we can see the article, and then take the other one and move it up. And if I want it to make it look like a book, then I should probably, oops. Why did it come in like that? Shouldn't have. But maybe I'll just keep it post-human studies and keep it the same size, but just move it over like that. That's not terrible at all. Scale an X. Of course, I gotta get the scale right. It's really hard to do. That's why you have this little increment thing here. And when you click on it, you can also add increments to it. So 435, maybe make it 439. Yeah. All right. And now I need a background image for this.
Touches on a point I've made off before we emphasize.
So what image do I want for post-human? That's cool. That's very cool. So save that image. This is what I'm talking about, the deep dive. You can find all sorts of cool stuff. And even, nah, that one's pretty good. All right. So then that should show up here. There it is, and bring it over there, and then I gotta make it bigger. To do that, you have to zoom in, so hit the period key, make it bigger, then you can zoom out, bring it down, oops, click on it, use the G key, and bring this down underneath. If it lets me, if you shrink things down here and then drag down, get used to navigating this, and then, yeah. And then it would be cool if these...
Our first touches on a point I've made off before we emphasize emphatically. We need to consider gender.
And then let's bring this out and bring this out. And then
we need to consider gender. Race too.
And then try to zoom on this and make sure that these are aligned.
Race too, or rather ethnicity, geographical origin, cultural background, since race isn't really a valid concept.
So, we've now got these ideas moving here. Except there's a little, you always have to check because there could be little artifacts like that. And if you're not at the right zoom level, you will miss them. So that there needs to be on the line. And there's something wrong, so use your arrow keys to get to specific frames, like that one, and then find where your frame got off, like there. And, oh, shoot. Always use that Control-Z key when something happens. All right, there. So, from there. Nope, that's not where I wanted it, actually. That should be this one that should be a bit wider. There we go. And that should go out here. And then this and this back up against that. And then when we get to the borderline of the frame, yeah. Oh, didn't want that. So something's wrong. Ah, this one here is messed up. This needs to be one more down. There we go. Okay. We're getting there.
Our first touch is on the point.
But why don't I then finish this up? You're getting the idea of how I'm putting this whole thing together, and hopefully you'll be able to do your editing in Blender as well. Bye for now.